Evangelical leaders promote anti-Semitism when they deny the biblical relevance of the Jewish people, the nation Israel, and they support anti-Zionist and Palestinian causes such as Christ at the checkpoint. We learn from history that we learn nothing from history. George Bernard Shaw. Matthew 25:40 states, And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. While some use least of these to refer to those in need, we look at this as social status. By Jesus adding my brethren, it begs the question, who are Jesus' brethren? Many Bible scholars make the connection of least of these my brethren specifically to how the Jews were treated during the Great Tribulation. But it can also apply to how we treat Jewish people at any time. As a distinct religious group and culture, the world Jewish population is about 14 million people, or 0.2% of the world's population. In addition, the Jewish population has been under extensive persecution over the last 1700 years. Contrast least of these with poverty in general. Over 3 billion people are currently living in poverty. Replacement theology is a concept that the church replaces Israel and God's promises to Israel, therefore removing any further significance to the Jewish people. This started with early church fathers such as Origen and Augustine and led to Jewish persecution through both the Roman Catholic system as well as the Reformers. As Jewish persecution was ingrained in European thought, Germany, being a Christian nation, embraced Hitler, who spoke in Christian terms, even quoting Martin Luther. Since Israel became a nation, many evangelicals embraced dispensational theology, popularized by John Nelson Darby. John Nelson Darby looked back to the Bible instead of the church fathers, but things have changed with the rise in popularity of the emerging church movement. Dispensationalism is an approach to biblical interpretation which states that God uses different means of working with people, Israel and the church, during different periods of history. Much has been said about the emergent church's postmodern gospel and contemplative prayer, but little has been said about the movement's stance on Israel. Popular speaker and leader Tony Campolo is highly critical of dispensationalism and further states, we cannot buy into that mindset that says the Holy Land belongs only to the Jews. It belongs to all people that are living there right now. That's what justice calls for. Donald Miller, author of Blue Like Jazz and associated with the emerging church, is also highly critical of Israel. While calling for peace, he is clearly promoting the idea that the church replaces Israel. A small but powerful group of evangelicals still believe when the New Testament refers to Israel, it's referring to the newfound country rather than the spiritual nation formed in the collective hearts of all believers. This belief, true or not, is encouraging many to side with Israel and buy into the spin. Relevant magazine, which is read by 1.3 million young adults each year, recently published an article titled Blessed are the Peacemakers, which is also advocating for the Palestinian cause. Cameron Strang, the publisher and author, places blame on Israel while advocating for peace. In his blog, Brian McLaren gives a plug to Gary Burge, who has, quote, needed perspectives on Israel and Palestine, unquote. Gary Burge, a professor of New Testament at Wheaton College, as well as an author, stated at Christ at the Checkpoint Conference, this country may be the only place in the world where millions of people have chosen to justify their claim on land by appealing to a single man who died somewhere around 2000 BC, and they're dead serious. Lastly, the conference Christ at the Checkpoint, which many evangelical leaders have supported, including Lynn Hybels, Tony Campolo, Brian McLaren, among others, it's organized biannually by the Bethlehem Bible College. We feel the Palestinian people have been oppressed for so long and their voice needs to be heard. Dr. Jack Serra, president of the Bethlehem Bible College, recently told the Palestinian News Agency. The speakers at Christ at the Checkpoint represent a who's who of the new anti-Israel Christian narrative, says David Brogg, executive director of Christians United for Israel. Most of them claim to be pro-Israel, pro-Palestinian, and pro-peace. But almost every speaker will focus on Palestinian suffering and ignore Jewish suffering. And almost every speaker will blame Palestinian suffering on Israel and Israel alone. In response to a student who had attacked Zionism during a dinner event, Martin Luther King stated, when people criticize Zionists, they mean Jews. You're talking anti-Semitism. Conclusion. As Christians, we need to first understand the issues and unconditional covenants that God has made to Israel. While replacement theology started with the idea that the Jews killed Jesus, it's become Israel is a roadblock to peace. Christians were silent in Germany, leading to the acceptance of Jewish persecution. Anti-Semitism is again on the rise in the form of anti-Zionism. The media has not been favorable towards Israel, and now influential evangelicals are taking the side of Palestinians. Secondly, we need to speak out. While one voice is small, many voices in the form of social media, in addition to our own circle of influence, is powerful. God's plan for Israel hasn't changed, and as Christians we need to support the Jewish people in order to turn them to Jesus.